There is no real thing called a mind that can come out of the body. When we talk about rebirth, there is this tendency to think that the mind comes out of the body and then travels somewhere else and then creeps into another body. But that is not what is happening. Today it is important it is possible to understand this because of the development of this thing called science. We are familiar with what is called radio transmission, television transmission. Now in television, we can even see faces. It is a picture at the television station. A picture is taken, but that picture appears in the TV here. How is that picture? How did the picture come? It is the same picture. If you look at the picture, you will find this. It is the picture of the same person that has come to this television here. How did it come? Did the picture float in the air and come here? Nothing like that happened. So how did the transmission take place? Did something come here? If you ask a scientist or someone who knows science, how did it come? They'll speak of an electromagnetic wave. And it is even easy to understand that when I speak here, you are able to hear what I am saying. How did that happen? How is it that you can hear what I am saying? Did my words travel in space to your ears? That is not what really happened. When I speak, the only thing that happens is there are what are called vocal cords in the throat. Those vocal cords vibrate. And the vibration in the vocal cords create a vibration in the air. Air begins to shake, that is all. And it goes in the form of a wave. And what is a wave? Wave is not something that goes. It is simply when the air here shakes, the air next to that also shakes. And then the air next to that also shakes. It is like a row of balls or maybe marbles. You have a row of marbles, you tap one marble from one end and that will hit the next marble. That will hit the next marble, that will hit the next marble. That is how it goes. The movement goes like that. Nothing really travels from this side to the other. The only thing that we have a word called energy. and we say the energy travelled from here to there. Although we say that, there is no such thing called energy that travels. It is simply the movement here caused a movement next to that, and that caused a movement in the next place. That's how it goes. When we talk about energy, energy is not a thing that can go and travel. Although we think about it as something that travels. So when the air begins to vibrate near my throat, then this vibration is carried from one place to the other, and ultimately the air near your ear begins to vibrate, and then there is another membrane inside your ear which is called the tympanic membrane that begins to vibrate. When that membrane vibrates, a nerve impulse goes inside your ears and it goes to the brain, and something in the brain begins to vibrate also. And when that vibrates, a sound is heard. That is all you hear, it is just a sound. But then, that brain, because it is able to think, begins to interpret that sound and give meaning to it. So it is by giving the meaning that you begin to understand what I am saying. So these things are not really something like that travelled from one place to the other. Nothing really travelled ultimately. So rebirth takes place in the same way. Just as a picture travels from one place to the other, that is how the rebirth takes place. Those days there was no radios. We didn't have radios during the time of the Buddha. He didn't have television during the time of the Buddha. And there were no scientists to talk about energies and things like that. So the only way that the Buddha could explain how this happens is to compare this to a flame. If you have a flame in a candle, that flame is an activity. If you have another candle without a flame, you bring this flame near the other candle, and a flame arises in the next candle. And that is how the Buddha tried to explain how one candle can light another candle. And that also is not that something goes from one candle to the other. Nothing goes. It is simply the shaking in one candle will create a shaking in the other candle. And that shaking is the flame. It is an activity. So it is very important to understand this transmission, that is how rebirth takes place. Nothing goes from one place to another. And so, there is no such thing as a mind that goes anywhere. These are only words that we use to express ideas. We are using a word called a mind, but it is only a word to express a concept.